Well, welcome to Cinebuzzed, a little movie I watched last night called 9 to 5. So, 9 to 5 is a 1980 film starring Lily Tomlin, Dolly Parton, and Jane Fonda. And they all have beautiful big hair. I don't know if they're all wigs or what, or if there's like a literal, or if there is, I don't know if they're wearing wigs, or if it's like 20 ounces of hairspray in their hair. But it is just glorious. Just big head of firm helmet hair, like Lord Helmet from Spaceballs. It also has Dabney Coleman, who is an absolute '80s, staple. Yeah, one of my favorite movies is Cloak and Dagger. So I'm sure if you're watching this and you like '80s movies, Cloak and Dagger was probably pretty high on your list of your favorite films when you were a kid. Um, and I'll definitely talk about Cloak and Dagger in the future. But right now, I'm talking about 9 to 5. Starts off with Jane Fonda. She's starting a new job in a pretty big company where there are a lot of secretarial positions, right? A lot of girls typing, answering phones, and whatnot. And then behind the big door is Dabney Coleman, who is their boss. But you know what? Even though he's charismatic and charming and fun, he's a sleazebag. He takes credit for Lily Tomlin's ideas and how she might reshape the company or make it more profitable. And then he turns in the work as his own without shame. There's no shame in what he's doing. Um, then you have uh, Dolly Parton, who's his immediate secretary, and she the whole office thinks that she's having an affair with Dabney Coleman, which she is not. But he is spreading rumors that they are, and he's married, she's married, whatnot. Jane Fonda comes in, and she's trying to find her own place in this whole workspace. She's sort of like our point of view, so she comes in to the workspace as sort of like the audience and us seeing what is going on and getting a glimpse into like all the inner workings of this secretarial office. So the first of the shenanigans that is supposed to be comedic is when Jane Fonda goes to learn how to use the copy machine. Now this copy machine's a beast. I mean, this thing is huge, pretty remarkable too. 1980 copy machine, and it starts going crazy. There's paper everywhere. She doesn't know what to do. Paper on the floor, paper spilling out from the top, which I'm sure in 1980 that was like high hijinks, right? That's like freaking Three Stooges shit right there. Dabney Coleman comes in and he's basically, you dumb bitch. Don't you just know how to turn the off button off? So he turns off the off button, tells her to get back to work. So now we know he's kind of a creep. Um, Plus he's hitting on Dolly Parton pretty hard, kind of like the kind of stuff that would put you in prison almost immediately. Trying to get her to have an affair with him, pretty much through the whole movie. So the office girls they're reaching a boiling point, and I think the real tipping point is when Dolly Parton realizes that the whole office thinks that she is having an affair because he is telling people that they're having an affair. So she ends up with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin at a bar, and then they pull out a marijuana cigarette. So that's what they used to call it back in the day when it was sort of taboo, marijuana cigarette. So they go back to Dolly Parton's house and they get high, they get really stoned. Then they start fantasizing about how they're going to basically hold their boss accountable. And in this scene, each one has a fever dream fantasy in which we're all invited. Um, Kind of similar to like, Fletch Lives or Scrubs, or any of these sort of like shows where you get to see like fantasies of you get to see the fantasy play out. So Dolly Parton's is that she's the one sexually harassing him. She's the one coming on to him. She's the one making him show, unbutton his shirt and all that. And he's really uncomfortable. He's married. And then she lassos him. She's got like I guess she has a ranch or whatever, and she's like a cowgirl. Um, And then we have Lily Tomlin, and she's a Snow White character, and she's got all the cartoon animals around her, and she basically throws him out the window to his death. So it's a little rough. Um, so in one of the scenes, Lily Tomlin is getting Dabney Coleman coffee, which is a point of contention because she's not. That's not her job, but he makes it her job just to kind of get a little bit of slimy pleasure out of forcing her to do things she doesn't want to do. So she accidentally uses rat poison, which happens to be there in the cupboard, which is odd. You just randomly have rat poison, but I guess it moves the plot forward. She puts rat poison in his coffee. So he's in his office, and his chair flips back because he has chair problems. They established that earlier on. He gets knocked out. They go in, they see the coffee cup, and they see him knocked out. And then she puts one and one together that she put rat poison in his coffee. So now she thinks that she murdered him, that she killed him. So they go down to the morgue or to the hospital, the three of them, and they decide that the best course of action would be to steal the body. Now, Dabney Coleman's not dead, but there is a body that they think is Dabney Coleman's. It's got he's in the hallway, and his foot's hanging out. And there's a tag on the foot, so that's the speak for someone's dead. So Lily Tomlin rolls that body out of there, and they put it in the trunk of a car, and they take off, right? Then they get pulled over by a cop, so now the hijinks are increasing in complexity. I promise I haven't anything to drink. So he wants to look in the trunk because her turn signal's on, and it's not on the inside, so he thinks there might be a short inside the trunk. And no, you can't look in the trunk. We're on our way. I'm a doctor, and I got to get these two women to the hospital. And they happen to have the rat poison for some reason on their lap. And, I think they brought the rat poison to the hospital because they were hoping that he'd be okay, and they could tell the doctors that that was an accident, here's the rat poison, this is what happened. But now they're just sitting with a dead body in their trunk that isn't Dabney Coleman, pulled over by a cop, three of them in their front seat, and they have the rat poison in their lap. So she tells them that these two girls had taken rat poison accidentally, and she's taking them to the hospital. So she takes off back to the hospital. Then they find out that this body is not Dabney Coleman, right? So now they got to take the body back to the hospital. Then they find out Dabney Coleman is okay. He walks into the office, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's alive!" And he immediately knows that they poisoned him. Which I think I might have missed something because I know he fell over in the chair and he dropped the cup. So I assumed he did not drink any of the coffee, but maybe he did have a little bit because he does talk about how they found strychnine or whatever in his bloodstream. And then he's like, you tried to kill me. So now he's using that as leverage, right? He's going to call the cops, but he's using it as leverage so that he can get into Dolly Parton's underwear, or probably her bra. That'd make more sense. So that's where his mind's at. He's gonna use it as blackmail against Dolly Parton. He's like, come to my house tonight. I'll kind of forget the whole thing. So she gets scared and she ties him up. She hog ties him with a telephone cable. Jane Fonda comes in. She she lets him go. So to avoid jail, the three of them decide while they're trying to figure things out, they're going to kidnap Dabney Coleman and bring him back to his house because his wife is out of town. She's on vacation for quite a while. So the house is empty. So they buy all this stuff to make him mobile, but that he can't escape, which includes a choker, a vest, like a skydiving vest, and this system that's hooked up to the wall with a wire so that he can get around, but if need be, they can hit a button and it pulls him straight up into the wall and he kind of hangs there like a fish. So that's a running gag to the thing where they hit this button and he launches up into the wall. So he's stuck there for a couple of weeks, and while they're trying to figure out what to do. But in the meantime, they're reforming that office. They're taking a bad situation and they're making it into their dream situation, which is kind of interesting because that really wasn't the point of the film. The point of the film is that they were sick of coming in the 9 to 5, and that Dabney Coleman was a dick, and he needed to be gone. They're smarter than he is. So it's basically kind of a feminist movie going against the patriarchy, right? Which I know is a big thing right now. I know a lot of people are irritated with that, but it's not a new thing. It's been around. I just think right now it gets a lot of attention because it's kind of annoying. Whereas back then it was funny. It was funny because it was like, these women think they can do it better than a man, right? So I don't think people were really thinking down with the patriarchy, but people thought of it as a sort of a comic. It was a funny thing. Um, so 9 to 5 might be one of the earlier sort of equal rights kind of movies, and they use comedy. Never mind, it's all stupid. Anyway, 9 to 5 is definitely down with the patriarchy type of film, and that was done in 1980. So this has been on the minds of a lot of people for a very long time. I know people, that's not a new thing, though we like to think it is. Like right now it's super annoying, and the whole Me Too and all that kind of stuff has already kind of gotten flushed down the drain. But um, but 9 to 5 is definitely an example of doing it well and pointing out things that may be an issue, right? Which obviously harassment in the workplace is an issue, and there's a way of doing it, so it's kind of funny, but also brings some awareness to what's going on. So hijinks still ensue, and Dabney Coleman is tied up, and he's trying to get out. His wife comes home early, and she's like, "Holy crap, like he must be into S&M, something like that, right?" So it's kind of funny that he looks like he's all tied up and ready for some hot love. So now Dabney Coleman comes back to the office, right? He's been let loose. Comes back to the office, and the whole place is totally different. Now, mind you, it's only been 2 weeks. The whole office is upside down. It's like, well, not upside down. The whole office has been realized by this whole feminist movement. They show a person with like no legs in a wheelchair come up to a desk and pull himself out of the wheelchair into the chair. Then they show like some women that were fired earlier back at their desks, but they have a new system where it's like they can leave. They can do a 4-hour shift, and then someone else comes into the next 4-hour shift, kind of switching places. Then they have a daycare center where they have all these kids being babysat. The place has gone up in productivity by 20%. Now they get a visit from the bigwig, the guy from the very top, and he comes in, and just when Dabney Coleman's going to be like, "I'm going to put all these broads in jail," he gets all the credit for how amazing the place is being ran. That's kind of what they did in the 80s. Most people's come-uppins weren't really like were a little different. A lot of times it was like credit went to somebody who did not do the work, but somehow it was like, "Oh, you guys really do have good ideas, and I'm going to make you my general manager of whatever of the world." And it was kind of fun and funny, and everyone kind of got realistically what would happen. But these days, I think when people get their comeuppance or the consequences of their actions, it gets a little more dire and a little more realistic. Or But I think 9 to 5 handled it pretty good. So first he gets all the credit, right? So then I'm thinking, well, maybe he's going to get all the credit, and he's going to kind of like a Mr. Scrooge kind of thing, right? Where he's like, Tiny Tim, Tiny Lily Tomlin, I'm going to make you my vice president of the universe, and Dolly Parton, I'm going to make you whatever. So, but that doesn't happen. They take a tour of this place, and it's like gorgeous, right? There's all these. They're like, it's only been 2 weeks, and we have like daycare centers really working out, because I guess it only takes 2 weeks to make all this stuff happen, right? But I thought about it, and I'm going, well, I guess for the plot to move forward, that had to happen, right? Because Dabney Coleman would have to be gone and basically kidnapped for probably a good quarter, like 3 months, before you'd really see those kinds of results anywhere. Maybe a month. But I think at that point, there would be police being called, right? Like he's just missing in action. couldn't keep up the ruse that people just keep missing him, getting in elevators and whatnot while he's been tied up in his house. So the big guy, the main man in charge, looks like Colonel Sanders, but on Ozempic, and he's telling Dabney Coleman what a great job he's doing. He's going to send him to Brazil to do the same thing. And he's like, Brazil, huh? Okay. So that ends with everybody, uh, the girls winning, the office becoming a place of a positive work environment. There's even a girl who was an alcoholic, and every time the girls were like, I'm going to go get a drink, the alcoholic would be like, you go, girl, that kind of thing. So the alcoholic girl's, she's sober now. So it's been like 2 weeks, and she's all sobered up, and her life is much better, all because of this work environment that the three ladies implemented. So then we have like a post-credit scene, right? And in the 80s, they like to do the thing, well, not just the 80s, but in the 80s, they like to do a thing where they'll show clips from the movie you just watched, but then have a little side note of what happened to that character down the road. I never really liked that because I always thought it was just kind of cheap and unnecessary, but for some reason they did that a lot. And in this one, they're like, Lily Tomlin went on to become this and that, and Dolly Parton became a country singer, and Dabney Coleman went to Brazil and was kidnapped by a tribe, disappeared forever. So evidently he died, or I don't know. It was suggested to me that maybe the same thing happened to him in Brazil. He was kidnapped because he was being a dick, but who knows? So during the whole credit scene too, it's all scenes from the movie you just watched, which I think is interesting. So it's just like I just watched this movie, but now I'm going to watch a clip show of the movie, but with credits. So all that being said and done, the movie sounds like it's fun, right? It just sounds like, man, it's got so much going on. You have to establish a shitty work environment. You have a new player who just came into town and she's got a new job. She witnesses all this kind of horrible things happening. They got to take action, where they're thrown into all this mayhem that they created. They're thrown into all this mayhem that they created because of first it was a mistake with the strychnine and the poisoning, but it set into motion all this craziness of Dabney Coleman going to the hospital, of them stealing a body, of them getting pulled over while they have a body in the trunk, and they have to do the little bit, and then Dabney Coleman being held hostage in his house with S&M stuff on. Jane Fonda's ex-husband comes over, and he's kind of stalking her, and he sees the S&M, and he's like, oh my God, you're into this now? You're a whore. I'm out of here. Then you have all the fantasy sequences where they even use cartoon drawings of like animals while Lily Tomlin walks around in a Snow White outfit. You have the fever dream, basically, of all three of them telling the stories of how they would off their boss, as told through this completely different scene. You have the dead body, being brought back to the hospital. Then you have Dabney Coleman coming back to work and basically framing them all. Then you have Dabney Coleman come back to work and threatening them all with jail time. And then you have the happy ending where everybody gets what they want, and Dabney Coleman gets the boot, and he ends up in Brazil and kidnapped and murdered, I guess, by some tribe in Brazil. So that's the whole movie. And, in a nutshell, like in a 5-minute take on it, or if you were just to kind of read what it's about, or what I just said, just like a little synopsis, it sounds freaking crazy, right? It sounds like this is going to be a high-octane, fun adventure with, a vehicle for 3 very talented actresses. Dabney Coleman, who's like a genius, at the helm as the main Uncle Scrooge, or Mr. Dabney Coleman at the helm as the main Mr. Scrooge, or the more the character in which exemplifies all that is wrong with the workplace in its current state. You got dead bodies. It sounds fun. It sounds like this is going to be a romp. Like, I'm going to be laughing. It's going to be hard for me to eat my popcorn when I see these three, amazing actresses go through all this stuff together, smoking dope, having fantasies, talking about all kinds of crazy shit, weird, just things happening to them that just get snowballed and out of control. How are they going to ever get out of this, right? Well, the movie doesn't do any of that. It's like straight up pretty boring. There's like no pacing in this film at all. It's all done very sort of deadpan and serious. Um, there's really no comedic timing, even though you have Lily Tomlin, who's a genius comedian, and Dabney Coleman. They're not funny. They're just sort of moving the plot along, but they're not funny. Uh, Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton both play it pretty straight. There aren't any funny moments with them. Even when Jane Fonda's like uh, losing control of the copier, she just lacks the comedic timing um, that is required to make that scene funny. Plus, you would need more of them. You can't just have one scene of her in a copy machine and then play it straight for the rest of the film. Um, all those scenes, where they have all the scenes where they're fantasizing about killing their boss, just drags on. Like, it should have been funny, but it should have been funny in a way that, like, where you have someone like Fletch Lives, where he has a quick dream about being in the head of his plantation, and then you even have the cartoons, just like Lily Tomlin did, where the cartoons come into play. Now you're poking fun at Disney and all that, and it was funny though, because the movie had momentum. It was well edited. You had great comedians doing great comedic work. In this one, you had one great comedian, uh, and well, maybe two. This one, you had two great comedians. The best one being Lily Tomlin, just given nothing to do. Like, I think looking at the script, she's probably like, I could do this. They just didn't give her anything to do. She wasn't funny. Um, Jane Fonda wasn't funny. Dolly Parton wasn't funny. And when things were happening in the story, it wasn't funny. Even with the body in the trunk, which really should have been the pinnacle of the movie, the most outrageous thing, where you have these three basically simple women who or secretaries, now have a dead body with a toe on the tag in the trunk. And then one of the things I didn't mention was when they return the body, they just put it in a chair in the bathroom, and you get to see the guy's face and everything, and he's just all grayed out and he's dead. And this black lady comes in, and there's not a lot of black people in this film. So basically, the two or people who were cleaning in the hospital were black. I think there was one person in the main office that was black, and there was one other. So they only had one character that showed up that was actually African American. Everyone else was white. So this black lady comes in the bathroom and she's like, "There's another dead body in here." Like, this has happened before, right? Like, oh no, here we go again. There's a dead body in the bathroom. I'm not cleaning it up. Wah, wah, wah. So it doesn't land. It's just stupid. So all in all, I just didn't think 9 to 5 was very good. When I resonate on it, I'm like, oh yeah, there was some interesting things in that movie, but it's almost like primed to make into a better film. Like, if you really got some really great actresses and you just had a great script, I think the story itself is a lot of fun, and I like the idea of these people who have they're stuck at a crossroads where they don't like to be in a situation where they're being abused by their boss, but they're stuck in a bad work environment. But they also see that they can do a better job than him. Then they decide that, just through an accident, it sets into motion all these shenanigans, and it also helps them move on to their next steps in their lives. Um, all the while, they become friends. Um, Sounds like a great movie, but I did not think 9 to 5 was a very good movie. I would be hard pressed to watch it again. But on VHS, with a cocktail in my hand, I watched it on my CRT TV console in my little throwback room, and I did enjoy myself, but not because of the movie, just because of the whole environment and what I was doing. Um, Plus, I watched it after The Return, so I did a little review on Cocoon Return as well. I was a little kinder to that one, but I definitely would probably give a jeers to 9 to 5. I really wouldn't recommend seeing it. There's really nothing there. And that's it.